Hey everybody! It's that time of the week again. Time for your poem of the week. We are coming to you live from Peacock Blues Studios in Austin, Texas, in the Jim Alberti Theater. We have the curator of the Peacock Blues Studios, Stephanie, running props for you. Here. Time for your fun Texas facts. Texas was once actually two states. After the revolution of Mexico, New Spain, from New Spain, Mexico decided that Texas didn't have enough people in it to be its own state. So it doubled up with Coahuila and it became Coahuila, Texas. But they almost had a civil war over that, so they split up again. The difference in that civil war? You guessed it, slavery. Pull up a chair. Got plenty of seats right up front. Let's see if this is going to work. I don't think it is. Oh, well. I thought it would work, but it didn't. Show me some love. Hit the love button. It will come back to you in infinity. And if you can afford to support me or this broadcast, you can do so through PayPal at Ball Chandler, Venmo, The Chris Chandler Show, or Patreon, The Chris Chandler Show. And hang around after your broadcast for your moment of spin. Everybody say hi to Stephanie. She's running props for you. You guys up for a story? Sure you are. Our theme music is by Pete Weiss and the Weistronauts. Y'all up for a story? Say, tell me a story, Chandler. Type it out on the keyboard. Okay, I will. But first I'm going to tell you why I'm going to tell this story. I haven't told this story since 2015 upon the anniversary of the execution of Joe Hill. And yesterday was May Day. And 2 years ago, yesterday, we put in the ground my dear friend Ann Feeney on May Day, International Workers' Day. She's buried next to Mary Jones, Mother Jones, and Mary Harris Jones in Mount Olive, Illinois. And this was one of her favorite pieces, and a piece that I used to do with her back in the day. I haven't done it in a long time, so I don't have it memorized anymore. But turn in your hymnal to page 251. The pageant of the Paterson silk strike. I believe in solidarity. I believe in the Easter Bunny. I believe in the Tooth Fairy. I believe in Santa Claus. I believe that the power of good is greater than the power of evil, just not by very much. I believe in the Buddha, Muhammad, Vishnu, Jesus Christ. I believe in peanut butter. I believe that Athena sprang from the head of Zeus and that Atlas really held the world on his shoulders, though I'm not sure where his feet were at the time. I believe that it's the telling of a tale that makes it so. I believe that children have imaginary friends and that adults really can't see them. And I believe that blankets have magical powers that protect us from monsters. Perhaps that's why I believe in condoms. I believe that four-leaf clovers bring good luck. I believe that people really do get abducted by aliens and that people who don't believe that never had an imaginary friend. In 2001, I saw the image of the Virgin Mary emerge from a rust stain on a metal telephone pole. I pointed it out to others. A crowd gathered. People began to genuflect. I believe that every picture tells 1,000 stories and every story paints 1,000 pictures. You do the math. I believe that photographs themselves can speak. In 2005 in Paterson, New Jersey, I saw a photograph taken in 1913 of 10,000 people gathered at a balcony listening to speakers give their speeches with no sound system. In the far corner of that photograph, there was a small child, 8 years old, born in 1905. That child told me his story 100 years after the picture was taken. He said, what's 100 years between friends? In 1900, there were not 1900 automobiles, nor 1900 miles of paved road to drive them on. In 2000, there are enough paved road to build a bridge from Uranus and enough assholes on the road to form a traffic jam. In 1900, it cost 2 cents to get a letter from Paterson, New Jersey to New York City, and it took 2 days to get there. In 2000, it cost 38 cents, and it took 2 days to get there. But what's 100 years between friends? In 1913, European imperial powers were about to begin slaughtering themselves wholesale with mechanized warfare. It had only been 10 years since the Wright brothers, and already people were dropping bombs from planes. In 1913, the Panama Canal opened, as did Grand Central Station. Cracker Jack introduced prizes for the first time. Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show could no longer compete with the new motion picture industry, and it went bankrupt. The Wild West was over. Richard Nixon was born. The streets of America were frenzied with the sound of factories. Women could not vote. The Russian Revolution had not yet happened, but its electricity could be felt on the streets of Moscow, Berlin, Madrid, Seattle, and Paterson, New Jersey. The sound of revolution is exactly as loud as the sound of a rumbling stomach. They claimed automation would lead to a reduction in work, just like some claim home computers will reduce our workloads. When the machine gun was invented, people said, with this weapon there is no way we could have another war, with a weapon that could kill hundreds in seconds. Yet the imperial powers of Europe convinced the poverty-stricken to throw their bodies into the wake of mechanized destruction. The boy in the photograph told me he lived to see his brothers do just that. In 1913, Henry Ford developed the assembly line for automobiles. In that same year, in Seattle, mechanized sawmills had been turning the great forests in the West into toothpicks. Sure, the first mudslides occurred, but dental hygiene was at an all-time high. Well, that is until the industrial workers of the world led the great sawmill strike of 1913. In Akron, Ohio, rubber workers were on strike. In British Columbia, railroad workers. A year earlier, the IWW had won the Bread and Roses strike in Lawrence, Massachusetts. In Paterson, New Jersey, factory owners realized that anyone who could convince someone else to run in front of a machine gun nest deserved a ribbon. And the factories of Paterson ran 18 hours a day, cranking out silk and fabric for ribbons. The war to end all wars was just beginning, and there was no shortage of officers needing ribbons, and demand was as high as the profits, but the workers were stretched beyond their limits. So the owners introduced a 4-loom system that they claimed would lessen the workload, but in fact it doubled it. And that was the cigarette that broke the camel's back. Thousands went on strike. Thousands were arrested, including the boy in the photograph. But there is no jail cell strong enough to withstand the rumble of a man's stomach. The jail cells were the epicenter of an earthquake felt all the way to New York City, and those tremors caught the attention of the IWW, who put together one of the most organized strikes in history. Rallies were held, weekly meetings. Well-to-do families in New York City offered child care. The boy in the photograph lived for 3 months in the home of Mabel Dodge, a prominent New York City heiress. Celebrity speakers were brought in. New demands were raised. The 8-hour day, health care, women's suffrage. 20,000 people gathered at once to raise their voices into the air, but for every foot they moved forward, they were pushed back 11 inches. The power of good is greater than the power of evil. Just not by very much. Picketers were killed. More were arrested. But no matter how many workers were killed, it was the mills that remained dead, and no amount of violence could bring them back to life. The only thing that could break that picket line is the mightiest force on earth, the sound of a rumbling stomach. And although they had never been hungry a day in their lives, it was a bunch of Greenwich Village intellectuals who realized this first. The earthquake erupting in Paterson, New Jersey was just a tremor warning of the 10 days that shook the world. Later, Jack Reed's famous book would do just that. But for now, he was a Greenwich Village intellectual, and he began to work on a play. After all, it is the telling of the tale that makes it so. Why else would great stories only happen to great storytellers? And he took that new play and he turned it into a fundraiser, although you won't find his name in the program. Big Bill Haywood and Elizabeth Gurley Flynn spoke, though you won't see their name on the marquee. Famed scenic designer John Sloan created the set, though you won't find his name in the credits. Instead, what you will find is the pageant of the Paterson silk strike, performed by the workers themselves. Madison Square Gardens was filled to capacity. Critics sat on the aisle, prepared to hate this new propagandist art form. The striking workers waited in the wings for this play, for in this show, the workers themselves would act out the event. Yes, on June 13th, in June of 1913, 1,000 striking mill workers joined Actors Equity of New York City to perform one play for one night. They would tell their own tale. As the curtain went up, a whistle sounded, as if to begin a new day. On stage, it was 6 a.m. on a February morning. The mills were alive, and it was the workers who were dead. But soon the workers began to think. Soon they began singing together. They sang the La Marseillaise. The audience joined in the chorus. Fear a movement that sings. The great silk strike had begun, and they began singing together. But with each triumph, the audience cheered, and with each setback, they booed. And no rock concert could recreate the enthusiasm of that crowd. They made Woodstock seem like an episode of American Idol. The boy in the photograph was there. He was one of the tens of thousands in the audience at the end in standing ovation, fist in the air, singing at the top of his tiny lungs the Internationale. Arise, ye prisoners of starvation. Arise, ye wretched of the earth. For justice thunders condemnation. A better world's in birth. No more tradition's chains shall bind us. Arise, ye slaves no more in thrall. The earth shall rise on new foundations. We have not, we shall be all. 'Tis the final conflict. Let each stand in their place. The international union shall free the human race. The play received overwhelming critical acclaim. To this day, it is considered one of the most important moments in modern art. On a personal level, I heard about it when I was an art school student, long before I had any interest in labor history. Few performances could match what happened on that stage that night, but with too many great works of art, it lost money. How could it not? Too many people were let in for free. How could they not? How can you ask a family to pay to see a play their striking father is in? You can't. The boy in the photograph did not pay. How could he? And without further financial support, the general strike began to decay, and the workers slowly went back to work. Many would say it was a defeat, and maybe even the end of the IWW itself. But the truth is, it was only the beginning, at least for their goals. There is no way to undo the jubilation of that crowd, just as there could be no such thing as victory without first being an understanding of defeat. Listen to the blues. If dreams were real, there would be no need for dreams. And in a world of no dreams, we could only dream of dreaming. The workers may not have gotten everything they asked for, and they asked for a lot. And we still do not have everything they asked for. We still deserve it, and we are still fighting for it. But the truth is, they went back to work under pre-strike conditions, and their original grievance, the four-loom system, was not implemented for another decade. But a few short years later, on March 14th of 1917, Congress enacted what the pageant of the Paterson silk strike demanded: the 8-hour day. 3 years later, women could vote. There has always been a fragile bridge built between intellectuals and laborers. Intellectuals intellectualize mill workers, and weavers weave the cloth of the intellectual. They cannot be the same thing, but the bridge is there. It is fragile. It takes skill to cross it. Few will make it. It is why we tell tales about those who do. Perhaps a play can make it across that bridge. Perhaps a song. Perhaps the photograph of an 8-year-old boy hanging in a museum in Paterson, New Jersey can cross that bridge. Perhaps 1,000 striking workers telling their own tale can cross that bridge. And once crossed, there is no end to what could be accomplished. It is the telling of the tale that makes it so. Just like the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and the greatest story ever told. This has been your Poem of the Week. Stick around for your moment of spin. Thank you guys for gathering around. Yeah. Oh, we're having fun here. Pick a number. Give me a number between 1 and 3. What I've got here is series of one-liners. Three volumes of them. Oh, there's the outro music. Now we can really have a moment of spin, because we got Pete Weiss and the Oystronauts playing for you. Let's see, do we have a number between 1 and 3? So why don't you pick one, Stephanie? 3. We got 3. Observations from a roadside diner. And how about a number between 1 and 126?
42.
Who says 42?
Me.
Oh, okay. I like this. Polysyllabic is. Monosyllabic is not. There you have your moment of spin. Thanks so much for gathering around. We will see you again next week at 7 o'clock Central. So long, everybody.